yes, we are down here at the Port Alberni waterfront. It's not exactly a beautiful day to be outside, but it's an interesting day to be outside because there is an awful lot happening on the Port Alberni waterfront and down the inlet. And to tell me about some of the most visible happenings, I'm here with Mike Carter from the Port Authority. Mike, what is going on just down over your shoulder at the Water Street dock?
It's the old Water Street Wharf, which was decommissioned about 4 years ago. Western Canada Marine Response is slowly moving into town, and they're putting in an oil spill response base to protect the west coast of the Vancouver Island. So at Water Street, they're revitalizing that, redecking it with a nice wooden deck and new railings for pedestrian access only. It won't be used for vehicles, but it'll be used as a laydown area for Western Canada Marine Response, their base. There'll be a pocket marina out front of it that'll house about 10 vessels. Up to 78 feet long. So it'll be quite a fleet of brand new vessels that are being built in Singapore right now.
Holy samoli. Now, for folks out there, everybody knows this wharf because it's been in a state of disrepair for some time. People have been waiting for something to happen.
So have we. It's well overdue, and we're happy to see something. So it's a joint venture between the Port Authority and Western Canada Marine Response for the resurfacing of that. Also with that marina, they're also building a 10,000 square foot office and warehouse over on our other property just south of our office as well. And all this is slated to construction late fall of 2018 and hopefully operational by late 2019.
With that much office space, there's going to be people in those offices, I'm guessing. There's a few jobs coming to town?
We're understanding there'll be 17 to 20 full-time jobs, which is, for a small community, that's a big influx, and we're really looking forward to that.
That is huge. Now, obviously, the Port Authority is involved in this, but it's not your project. But do you know, are they bringing in trained people, newcomers to town, or are they going to be hiring here?
I think there'll be a bit of both. They've already advertised for the base manager and I think a base supervisor. Whether they've awarded those positions yet or not, I don't know, but they've been advertised publicly. They've got bases all over Vancouver Island and Prince Rupert area and Lower Mainland, so therefore they will have some expertise of their own coming in, I'm sure, but they are advertising locally as well, so there is opportunity here.
Oh, excellent. Mike, thank you so much for telling me about it. Now, we are out here on a kind of a chilly January day, but you know, there is still a lot of warmth being generated in Port Alberni. Ah, January, with all the pomp and circumstances of the holidays behind us. Well, unless you were in Port Alberni, where there was plenty of pomp and one last chance to say Merry Christmas on January 5th.
Tonight is the 12th night ball. It is a Jane Austen 12th night ball, doing something that is actually historical, that perhaps many people aren't really well aware of, but what fun.
What fun indeed. Brenda and her daughter Bronwyn organized the ball with the support of Port Alberni's Jane Austen Society, recreating a traditional 12th night celebration on, of course, the 12th day of Christmas, January 5th.
I have to say that last summer, when my daughter and I were involved with the Jane Austen Festival for the first time, we became enamored with the time period. We love Regency dancing. And the idea that we would have to wait a whole year before we could dance again was it just wasn't on.
Brenda's not alone. A growing number of people have been bitten by the Regency bug.
I'm a history buff and I love fashion, and so I sewed myself an outfit and have come along, and I'm a member of the Centennial Bells, and it's been wonderful to have a winter ball event to attend.
And what a ball it was, with games, refreshments, and music, all chosen to be as authentically Regency as possible. But, as at any ball, the dancing took center stage.
In the olden days, in the Regency time, the people would learn from dancing masters, and they'd all know the dances, and someone would get up and the people at the top of the line would say, "Let's do this," and they'd start it off and everybody would know. But we don't do that anymore, so we need someone in front of us to tell us what to do, and that's what I do.
Take hands in your groups of 4. First men, you know who that second lady is that you'll be dancing to? All right, there'll be a little intro when you can acknowledge.
It's a wonderful feeling when everybody's dancing together, and when the caller can be quiet and you can just dance to the music, then it's wonderful.
Face your partner and clap. 1, 2, 2 halfway. First
I think people have a huge amount of fun once they get involved and make new friendships and go places and go to other events and learn more history, learn more about fashion. There's a whole world of sort of reenactment that comes along with being involved in something like this.
By the end of the evening, games of Snapdragon and Wit had been played, good food and good cheer had been shared, and a king and queen of the ball had been crowned. You might say it was a historic success.
What a wonderful way to really kick off 2018 by having a party we can dress up for and just have fun together.
For more information about Regency events and this summer's Jane Austen Festival, visit www.centennialbells.ca. In Port Alberni, I'm Nancy Wilmot. Now, it's pretty clear to me that those dancers were thoroughly enjoying themselves, and really, it's just a preview of what you can expect at the Jane Austen Festival coming up for the 3rd annual time this summer. Check out the Centennial Bells website to find out a little bit more about how you can get tickets and how you can get your costume ready in time. Now, we are still here at the Port Alberni waterfront talking about the great goings-ons down here. I'm with Dave McCormick. Dave, Tye Landing has to be one of the biggest new additions to the waterfront. What's new down there for this summer?
Well, this summer we like to continue to see the growth of Port Day down there, again scheduled for Father's Day weekend in partnership with the Solstice Arts Festival, and we've got a few other surprises that we're hoping will come through this year as well. And of course, the Salmon Festival last year in 2017 was a tremendous success, brought so much new energy and enthusiasm among the community. So we're looking forward to seeing how that could be built upon this year as well at Tye Landing.
And you know, every time I am down there, it really is so vibrant. There's always people out walking.
We've worked with so many partners, whether it's Island Coastal Economic Trust, the City of Port Alberni, and now with WCMRC, to continue to improve the facilities, improve access for the community of our dynamic mixed-use waterfront. So we're really excited to work with all of our partners and have the support of the community to bring everybody down to enjoy what we value so much in the community, and that's our water and our access to the nature in our harbor.
And dare I ask, are you still looking for vendors, maybe restaurateurs, to take up residence at Tye Landing?
Absolutely. The facility itself is starting to settle in nicely. People are starting to become aware of its location, the tremendous access to the waterfront, and to visitors who are coming to enjoy the waterfront. So we're absolutely open to different designs and concepts and really what could be there, and open to the creative energy of small business and entrepreneurs and artists as well. It's a spectacular location.
It is a spectacular location, spectacular concept, so thank you for telling me about it, Dave. I always learn something new when I talk to Dave McCormick down on the waterfront. Now, we have a little bit more to tell you about what's happening with the Port Authority, but I'm going to kind of give you a look back at a story we did a few years ago. The Port Alberni Transshipping Hub. If you live in the Alberni Valley, you've heard a lot about it lately. It's a proposed transfer point for container ships carrying containers to the Port of Vancouver or Seattle, Tacoma and beyond. But it's hard to understand the concept unless you see the proposed location for the shipping hub. And that's where we're heading today, aboard the Harbour Chieftain. Our destination? A 750-hectare map reserve that stretches from Coleman Creek to Spencer Creek on the Alberni Inlet. Both possible sites should the project move ahead. A third, Sarita, a little further down, is also under consideration. And according to our guide, Steve Baxter, who has worked in marine industries around the world, any one of them would be an ideal location.
From a mariner's point, we're about 60 feet off the shore, and we still have hundreds of feet of water below us. So for a big draft ship coming in, there's very little infrastructure to put in here. We don't have to build a big dock to come out. We can put some smaller dolphins. So very easy for us to put a dock mooring facility here for ships this size.
The proposal is to build a port where large ships can unload containers that will be stored and then barged into their destination port when their connecting transportation is ready for them, saving the ships up to 4 days travel time, saving millions of dollars in warehouse fees, and reducing truck congestion. An idea that pretty much arrived with Port Authority CEO Zoran Kanisevic.
Actually germinated a few years back as we were talking, as we had a luncheon with some colleagues in the industry, and they were talking about transshipping facility on the East Coast in Newfoundland, and I said we could do the same thing here in Port Alberni. So far, from what I've seen, the community is very much on board.
The proposal is being supported by federal, provincial, and municipal governments, and most recently, the Huu-ay-aht First Nation has established a protocol agreement with the Port Authority to collaborate towards this development.
Our idea and strategy was to get involved from the begin-go, because in too many situations we come after the fact. Okay, let's consult with First Nations. So we said let's get it on the ground floor and be part of the planning process and be part of the implementation of at least a strategy.
With big pieces of machinery on it.
Huu-ay-aht has been so proactive and really a pleasure to work with, and I hope it continues, and it doesn't ends there and expands on the other First Nations in the area to work together. And this is too big of a project for a small port authority to push on its own. We need everybody behind this.
But this proposal is still in a very early stage, with the feasibility study scheduled to be completed by March of 2014.
So essentially build a business case saying, okay, it makes sense, and this is how much it's going to cost, and this is what the expected return on investment would be. And at that point, I could go and talk to potential investors, these large terminal operators like DP World, Maersk, and not to miss anybody, but there's a lot of the terminal operators in the world that potentially to look in and investing in something like this, especially if it makes a business sense.
The Port Alberni Transshipping Hub, if it goes ahead, will be $1 billion investment in the local economy. And that's a pretty big dream for one of Canada's smallest port authorities. And it's a dream that the entire province is watching closely. In Port Alberni, on the Alberni Inlet, I'm Nancy Wilmot. Now that story was shot a few years ago, just when the PATH project was in the concept stage. A lot has been happening since then, and I'm here with Zoran Knežević to catch us up to date. Zoran, what is happening now?
Hi, Nancy, thanks. What's happening? We have been working quite feverishly hard for the past couple of years in order to promote PATH project, or Port Alberni Transshipping Hub. And we have been quite successful, I have to say, in moving project ahead and getting wider recognition of the project, and also a need for the West Coast for a project of that size. As a specific results, what we have done, just last year, our PATH project was supported by British Columbia Chambers of Commerce, all of British Columbia Chambers of Commerce, and have PATH project on support list. Also Canadian Chambers of Commerce have supported PATH. We also have applied with federal government through a National Transportation Corridor Fund to have support for the project. We have passed the first selection process, and right now we are being reviewed and looked at whether the project will meet criteria for funding from federal government. So we have attracted the attention much wider and broader than local community, and we are quite pleased with the results so far. So we hope to see some results in the near future.
Now, I know that when you went into this, you knew that this was a long-haul project. You knew this wasn't happening overnight. But are you pleased with how things are turning over, with the way things are working?
Yes, and you're absolutely right. These projects, or projects of this kind, take a long time. Using, for example, Prince Rupert as an example, and I always kind of draw relevance to them in some regard, being I'd like to say Port Alberni is where Prince Rupert was maybe 15, 20 years ago when they were talking about large projects, and look at them right now. So it does take a long time, and we are quite pleased, to be honest with you, with progress where we are, or how far we have gone for people to recognize us. Mind you, we are a fairly small organization with a limited number of resources, or a very finite number of resources. So I'm very pleased how much we have achieved, not just with PATH project, but with promoting port and making port quite an important organization in the community and bringing progress to a number of projects that we have attracted in the community, bringing progress to the region and the city itself.
And you know, I'm always impressed when I speak with you, Zoran. You came to this community, and it had to be one of the smallest places you had worked, and you just saw potential everywhere you looked.
I think there's a great potential for the community, for the port, and I really enjoy the community as well too. I mean, it was great for and is great for my little children, and my family enjoys it really much. And so anyway, it was a quite pleasing experience to move here.
Well, we're all very glad you did. We're all very glad you're in it for the long haul, because I believe that this project is going to come to fruition. I think we're going to live to see this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much for following up.
Now, we've been down here talking about the waterfront, talking about the potential and the projects that are happening here in Port Alberni's waterfront. But you know, there are things happening up from the waterfront too. In fact, right now, I'm heading up to the bowling alley to meet some of my favorite people. Bowling. It's one of those sports that the entire family can enjoy, which makes the Special Olympics Family Twosome Day a pretty big deal at the bowling alley. But then, with between 90 and 100 Special Olympic athletes bowling every week in Port Alberni, it's always a big deal. However, bowling is only one small part of what Special Olympics offers in this community.
Special Olympics runs just about year-round in Port Alberni, and we've been in operation for 33 years. We have winter sports and spring sports. We have athletes training to go to summer games, and a few years later we have them training to go to winter games. We have athletes going to the nationals in PEI this year.
National competitions, provincial competitions, weekly sessions. Special Olympics is a worldwide sports program offering all the benefits that come with organized sports to athletes that might otherwise not have that opportunity. Athletes like Simone Myers, whose involvement in Special O is a huge part of her life.
I do swimming, curling, wing hockey, track and field, softball, bowling, bocce, and I used to do basketball.
Okay, you have to admit, that list of sports is pretty impressive. But Simone's motivation for her involvement is pretty much the same as anybody else's.
Because I want to meet friends, stay active, and to go to the Olympics.
Personal best is very important to each and every athlete. But we are a competitive sport also, because some of these athletes, if they succeed at the nationals, can also go on to the World Games.
And yes, there have been local athletes who have gone on to compete at the Worlds. A big deal in any organization, especially an organization like Special Olympics that receives no provincial or federal funding.
We are totally run by volunteers. We have no paid staff. Depending on the year, we need at least $25,000 to $30,000 to supply venues for practices. We subsidize the bowling. Each week we have 90 to 100 bowlers and growing. Need money for travel also, and uniforms, new equipment. Sometimes we start new programs, so depending on the year, it can get very costly.
That means that every year these athletes and their families raise that money, selling tickets and holding fundraisers, a huge commitment. But for volunteers like Anne, who has spent over 30 years with the organization, it's a commitment that's worth it.
It's not all about the sports for me, it's about life. Those moments that you see in a movie or on a TV show where there's a track meet and they may be qualifying for the BCs, somebody may fall and they stop and they'll help the athlete that's fallen, they'll get up and continue on. And even if they're last in the race, they're very joyful and everybody's cheering them on.
Want to help keep the magic happening for Special Olympics? Come on out to Shars Landing on Sunday, January 28th for an evening of dancing and laughter. Admission by donation, with all proceeds going to Special Olympics Port Alberni.
Hello and welcome to Bulldogs Weekly right here on Shaw TV. I'm Tally Campbell for your first show of 2018. On today's show, we speak to goaltender John Hawthorne. We've got game highlights and more right now on Bulldogs Weekly. I am now joined with goaltender John Hawthorne of the Alberni Valley Bulldogs. John, talk about the recent success being awarded the BCHL Player of the Week.
Well, it's an honor. You know, you look at the other guys that have received, you know, the award or the, the Player of the Week over the past couple weeks, and then you just see that I got it. You know, it's an honor. It means a lot, and I just hope to continue that success.
Going back to when you first started playing hockey, why a goaltender?
Just kind of happened. I was on a novice D team, and we needed a goalie. I tried it out. I liked it, and I just kind of kept playing from there.
You played with the North Island Silvertips, BC Major Midget League, Junior B Buccaneers, VIJHL. Talk about how those clubs helped you prepare for the BCHL.
Well, with the Silvertips, you see a lot of rubber, and so, you know, that is good for goalies to develop. With the Buccaneers last year, it was good. We had a good team. We went on a run. We were really close-knit group, and I got to play a lot, and so that was a good experience. Really, you know, going through the sort of the process of being a starting goalie. You know, so that was big for me, and yeah, here I am.
Talk about how you became a Bulldog, the process, and what your feeling was when you learned that you were an Alberni Valley Bulldog.
So I was committed under a previous coaching staff. Then the new coaching staff came in. I had to come to camp and sort of earn my spot again. You know, when I found out, I was thrilled, of course. I mean, Matt phoned me, and it's the best feeling in the world. I mean, you know, knowing you made a BCHL roster.
The Bulldogs have 18 games remaining on this season. What is your guys' goal for the remaining games?
Well, we gotta, of course, the goal is to catch whoever's ahead of you, right? And you know, short of that, we just gotta win as many games as we can. Go on playoffs hot, and you know, anything can happen. And
lastly, John, what are your plans after junior hockey?
I'd love to get a NCAA Division I scholarship. I think that's pretty much the goal of everyone here, right? And yeah, see where that takes me.
Great, thank you, John. That is John Hawthorne, the goaltender of the Alberni Valley Bulldogs. It's now time for our game of the week. The Alberni Valley Bulldogs take on the West Kelowna Warriors. Here's the call, Evan Hammond from 93.3 The Peak.
What does Oliver bring? First in the league in defensive power play goals, first in defenseman goals. You can see it on the power play how dangerous he is.
Yeah, and he usually gets those on net. They weren't far off.
Selleck, Clusiani right in, right side, score! Beautiful top corner feed on the pass. Goaltender Hawthorne will play it, held to the right point, pressure, big hit, and out 2-on-1. Van Nuden over the line, left side, Mastronato with them. In front, Mastronato, Van Nuden scores! Miss short side. Van Nuden. Right corner left for Steele. Back to the right point, Rizzolo. Van Nuden got hammered away from the puck too. Back door left circle, Oliver. Double clutched it. In front, Steele. Stop. Rebound. Scores! It is Van Nuden again. And the Dogs have tied it again. It's 3-3.
That was Evan Hammond from 93.3 The Peak, the voice of the Alberni Valley Bulldogs, with your game of the week. On next week's show, we're going to chat with General Manager, Head Coach of the Alberni Valley Bulldogs, Matt Hughes, who will run down trade deadline day in the BCHL. That trade deadline is on January the 10th, where teams have to complete all their trades until June the 1st. For Bulldogs Weekly, I'm Tally Campbell.
Well, that really does bring us to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a story you'd like to see, please just give us a call or shoot us an email. We would love to hear from you because you know there's plenty of potential where you live.